welcome back to my channel. I know it's been a very long time and I said I was going to come back last month. It's very difficult to try to create different content for all these social medias. I decided today because I have a photo shoot, I would do a tutorial for you. This is going to be an SFX style tutorial for a sewn mouth look. I did this look a few years ago, more on a grungier style. Today we're going to incorporate it with this doll makeup. Now this look is going to be on the gorier side. I will not be applying the blood for this tutorial because I do have to drive to New York for this photo shoot and I want to make sure that I am not a mess on the way there. But for supplies, you are going to need some clear liquid latex, some string. I'm going to use a dark red lipstick on my lips as a base. Then you are going to need a palette with various shades to do some shading, brushes of your choice, tissues. I'm going to use this thin toilet paper because I don't have tissues. And I highly recommend for using liquid latex that you use disposable sponges because latex ruins brushes. I learned that the hard way. You will also need scissors to cut your string, and I will be applying my latex onto here to kind of dab. Then take at least 4 disposable sponges, leave 2 as normal, and then you're going to take 2 others and you're going to pick at the ends of them to create some jagged edges. Now for layer 1, you're going to take one of the regular disposable sponges. Also make sure you have no makeup product around your lips because you're going to need the latex to stick. Dip your sponge inside of the latex and just start around where you are going to start placing your shape. You have your first layer of latex in place. You're going to take your small piece of tissue. I do recommend actually ripping all of the edges. You do not want, I don't want straight square edges, so it's going to be all rippled. And you're just going to start placing it around where it is. You have your first layer in place. You're going to re-dip your sponge into the latex and just start applying it right on top. If you notice, I'm not going too much on my actual lips with the latex. In fact, I am taking the edge of the sponge and just trying to lift up slowly the edge. I'm going to dip with the second sponge now, the second regular sponge. And I did do another layer of tissue, so you're just going to pile on that latex right on top. The more texture, the better. That's what's fun about gory looks. We want them to look sick. This look, you might not need a lot of string depending on how high you're trying to go. I'm keeping this on the smaller side. So what I'm going to do is kind of measure what I'm going to want for it. And then I'm just going to fold it at that point. And we're just going to cut to create small strings. While the latex is still wet, it's starting to get tacky, you're going to just, well, we actually need to cut it smaller. Stick it right where you want it. There's one. Once all the strings are in place and they are set, you're going to go in with your stippled sponge with the latex and go over those areas where the rope is going in. And just apply more latex. Okay, now you're going to go back in with your tissue. So take a thin strip and kind of apply it over the strings. So once you have that light layer of tissue over the top of the rope where it goes in, you're just going to apply another layer of latex over that. I'm going to take the thicker end, dip it back into my latex, and we are just going to go around the edge. This part you can get a little messy with because you got to think you're going to add shading and blood. So it also does not need to be perfect. It's just to add a little texture. Then you're going to use the opposite end to get by your nose. And now we're just going to let it dry. Actually, I have a couple spots of latex that are still drying. I am going to go in now with my red lipstick just to get the inner side of my lips so we can begin to start shading. I went in with a light layer of lipstick because we are going to be going in with the shading of the shadow and everything, and there's going to be all blood on the inside. So I just wanted to give it a nice base. Alright, so once your latex is all dry, you're going to go in with your foundation. Now I do tend to cake the foundation onto the latex because I want it to have a nice base. Once that's all set, you're going to go in with your tweezers and you're going to start lifting up some areas to give that skin flap appearance. Get everything lifted the way you want it to. I'm taking what is left on my foundation brush, not adding any extra, and I'm slightly going along the strings because we are going to shade them in and make them darker. Now here comes the fun part, the shading. Whatever palette you want to use is fine. I recommend one that has blacks, browns, and red. You're going to want a variety of brushes to do your shading. I'm going to start with a small brush and the lightest brown in the palette. Well, it's not the lightest brown, but it's a light tone. The goal is to make this dirty, make it grungy. So you are just taking the color and just literally stippling it everywhere. It doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be blended. Along the edges, in between the strings. And go in with the second brown shade, which I'm using this one right here. I don't know if you can see it because I can't see my camera. And we're doing the same effect but with a much lighter hand. And I am focusing a lot of that product on the base of the strings. And then a light hand everywhere else. The whole inside is pretty much going to be bloody. It's going to be like all blood. So I'm going to go in with those same two brown shades and just kind of get inside of where like all the gaps are. I'm starting with the lightest brown first and going along the edges and inside. It's okay if I get it on the lipstick. Trust the process, it will come together. I'm just taking a thin brush and running it along the edges. Alright, next step is we're going to go in with, which I already started, the darker shade of brown and just along the edges of where like the skin flap is, just kind of outline it a little. Thank you all for joining me for my tutorial. I really appreciate it. I know I had to fix the latex here, so my talking time is now going to end. I'm not adding the blood yet either because, like I said, I have to drive to New York and I want to make sure that I can have my protein shake along the way. So I will be applying the blood once I get to my photo shoot, and I will do an outro video for you guys to see the completed look. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video, and I hope to see you next time.